Good morning, afternoon, evening, YouTubers, wherever you are around this country, around the world. This is Diamond's Log Arc, date 2014-12-21. This is Jerry Diamond. If you're listening to this, you are the remnant. I want to touch on some things. I'm going to start off with a poem, actually 3 poems, a little bit, pieces from them. A poet named Rudyard Kipling wrote a lot of stuff, most famous for, let's say, Jungle Book, probably. Story about Rikki Tikki Tavi, the little mongoose that protected a family. Say Jungle Book. One of his most famous poems, I would think, would be Gunga Din. I memorized it like 40 years ago. You may talk of gin and beer when you're quartered safe out here, and you scented penny fights and alders showed it. But when it comes to slaughter, you'll do your work on water, and you'll lick the bloomin' boots of him that's got it. Now in India's sunny clime, where I used to spend my time a serving of Her Majesty the Queen, of all them black-faced crew, the finest man I knew was our regimental beastie Gunga Din. Anyway, pretty cool poem. A lot of really good barrack room ballads, a lot of military stuff, did a lot of writing on that. The story is he would have been officially the Poet Laureate of England. Unofficial Poet Laureate of England, but he wrote a poem and it kind of went crossways with the Queen. It's called The Widow at Windsor. Have you heard of the widow at Windsor with a hairy gold crown on her head? She has ships on the foam, she has millions at home, and she pays us poor beggars in red. Ow, poor beggars in red. A little bit later, the next stanza, he says, this is one that really got him in trouble. Walk wide of the widow at Windsor, for half a creation she owns. And we've salted it down. We have bought her the same with the sword and the flame, and we've salted it down with our bones. Anyway, that didn't put him in the best of graces with the Queen. At that time, there was an empire in which the sun never set, and that's a point I'm going to be making here, is that this tiny little island, tiny little nation, company of nations, commonwealth of nations, was administered by a people who went around the world and, a lot of evil, a lot of killing, but they built hospitals, they built roads, they built schools, they did a lot of things, a lot of similarity between Britain and America in that respect. I mean, we did go out and do a lot of good things, but like I said, a lot of imperialism and whatnot. That's not my point here. I'm going to read a poem I ran across the other day. I was reading with my partner and ran across Kipling and hadn't never read this poem before. And I'm going to see it as a crystallization, kind of a description in brief of what I see that needs to be done and what will be done and what is happening now. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stanzas. 8 stanzas. Let me read this. The Glory of the Garden. I'll comment on it after I read it. Our England is a garden that is full of stately views of borders, beds and shrubberies, of lawns and avenues, with statues on the terraces and peacocks strutting by, but the glory of the garden lies in more than meets the eye. For where the old thick laurels grow along the thin red wall, you will find the tool and potting sheds which are the heart of all, the cold frames and the hot houses, the dung pits and the tanks, the rollers, carts, and drain pipes, with the barrows and the planks. And there you'll see the gardeners, the men and prentice boys, told off to do as they are bid, and do it without noise. For except when seeds are planted and we shout to scare the birds, the glory of the garden, it abideth not in words. And some can pot begonias, and some can bud a rose, and some are hardly fit to trust with anything that grows. But they can roll and trim the lawns and sift the sand and loam, for the glory of the garden occupieth all who come. Our England is a garden, and such gardens are not made by singing, "Oh, how beautiful," and sitting in the shade, while better men than we go out and start their working lives at grubbing weeds from gravel paths with broken dinner knives. There's not a pair of legs so thin, there's not a head so thick, there's not a hand so weak and white, nor yet a heart so sick. But it can find some needful job that's crying to be done, and for the glory of the garden glorifieth every one. Then seek your job with thankfulness and work till further orders, if it's only netting strawberries or killing slugs on borders. And when your back stops aching and your hands begin to harden, you will find yourself a partner in the glory of the garden. O Adam was a gardener, and God who made him sees that half a proper gardener's work is done upon his knees. So when your work is finished, and you can wash your hand and pray, for the glory of the garden, that it may not pass away. And the glory of the garden, it shall never pass away. So, yeah, it's a poem about a garden, but it's talking about a nation as a garden, and that's what I want to address here, is the allusions in that poem, and maybe they weren't allusions, maybe they weren't allegorical, but I'm going to see it as such and comment on it as such. For where the old thick laurels grow, laurels are what you would hang on tombs, gravestones, and caskets. Along the thin red wall, you have a thin red line of those who would stand between war's desolation and their loved homeland. Fourth stanza, I believe, of the Star Spangled Banner. And then the next phrase starts off with the next stanza, and there you'll see the gardeners, the men and apprentice boys, kind of the military. You got the older, the officers and the apprentice boys. They told off to do as they're bid and do it without noise, follow orders. And then a little bit later, while better men than we go out and start their working lives at grubbing weeds from gravel paths with broken dinner knives. A lot of times, Britain went into Afghanistan, we've gone in there, and you're dealing with improvised weapons, a pipe with a shotgun shell in it, tripped with a, ground off nail. Oh boy, there was words for those. Dr. Watson, Sherlock Holmes' partner, got wounded by a homemade rifle. Anyway, but the biggest point I want to make here is there's not a pair of legs so thin, there's not a head so thick. No matter how dumb you are, you can do something. There's not a hand so weak and white, nor yet a heart so sick, but it can find some needful job that's crying to be done. For the glory of the garden glorifieth every one. Then seek your job with thankfulness and work till further orders, if it's only netting strawberries or killing slugs on borders. And when your back stops aching and your hands begin to harden, you will find yourself a partner in the glory of the garden. So, just want to touch on that and just comment that, we need to see a bigger area than our own little lives. We're not just talking about a family. We're so spread out, we're so fractured in our thinking. The idea of, us four no more is not going to cut it. We need to have a larger vision, a larger plan, a larger area that we're concerned about than just our family. And I'm going to do several videos here with that theme in mind, and so I just want to start off with this beautiful little poem here. And in the very last stanza there, O Adam was a gardener, and God who made him sees that half a proper gardener's work is done upon his knees. So when your work is finished, you can wash your hands and pray for the glory of the garden, that it may not pass away. And that is, you're working in the soil, you're grounded, it's a very earthy job. We were given, the first job that Adam was given was as a gardener, and to name the plants and animals and whatnot, and that is indeed the command given to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. And I don't think that just means be fruitful, have kids. There's 5 things there. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, take care of it. It's a garden. Keep the soil mineralized, whatever needs to be done. to do that and take dominion, subdue it. Subdue it doesn't mean destroy it, doesn't mean strip mine it, it doesn't mean, clear cut it. It means be a responsible steward of that which we've been given to take care of, administer, and that is a garden, a very large garden. So what I am envisioning and seeing is a very large garden as a central place in the continental United States, the Ozark Plateau, 30 to 50,000 square miles of garden. So that's where we need to be. All right. Thank you. And this is Jerry Diamond. If you're listening to this, you are the remnant.